Hi guys, this is Mukami, the environmentalist, and welcome back. Today I want us to look at how we dispose of our masks, the mask we are using that we are wearing every now and then, because apparently in Kenya it is illegal to walk around in public places, in open areas with people without wearing a mask. You'll be arrested and charged in court of law. So how do you dispose of the masks that you're wearing? I want us to look at that and how you're supposed to dispose them. And this is according to the guidelines that have been put in place by the National Environment Management Authority, that is NEMA. So let's get into it. But before we get there, I want to subscribe. Hit on that subscription button down there. Hit on that thing down there. There's a red word that is written subscribe. As you're watching the video, you see that button called written subscribe. Hit on that and you subscribe to my channel. So yeah, let's get into it. The COVID-19 came and we are surviving now. We have survived several months and we are waiting for the curves to flatten so that we can go back to our businesses as usual. But a mask is something we didn't know in the past. We have never had masks. We see them in the hospitals with nurses and doctors and such people wearing them. We saw them then. We saw them in farming. Not everybody, but some people during spray, when they were spraying the crops or the animals, they used to wear a mask. But rarely, because as I was brought up, I never saw my dad put on that thing. I never. But yeah, the pandemic is here. We are wearing masks every now and then. A mask it has become a jewelry for us ladies. Men, like, you have to wear that thing. But for the good cause, we do. Now, there are different type of masks that you can wear that are recommended. That's okay. I have a problem with the masks, the surgical masks that were being sold out here in the streets and the shops, in the supermarket and stuff. And by the way, you need to be cautious because there are some of them that are not real surgical masks. Some of them are just dust masks and some of them are fake. So you need to be cautious and know what you want. So if you are like me, who doesn't like wearing the kitenge mask, I'm not going to wear that kitenge mask. How then do you dispose of the one-time use? But of course, we are Kenyans. We use it once or twice, so bear with us. How do you dispose of that? I want to give a scenario of where, assuming we have an estate somewhere, and this estate has 100 units, and each unit has 3 people living there. So if we have 100 units, 100 houses, it means we have 300 people in that one estate. Let's call it estate X. So we have 300 people living there. Assuming 100 people from that estate does not usually use the one-time use mask when they go out for shopping, to work, or other businesses. They usually use the one-time mask. So in a day, we have 100 masks that are disposed of into the bins. Is that true? Assuming these people went out 3 days in a week, so that is 300 masks in a week. So by the time waste is being corrected, by the end of the week, we have 300 waste masks in the dump sites, in the dump places. So then my problem is, if several people are infected among the 100, and then you just remove your mask and you put it in your dustbin in the house, in your small, trash bag in your house, and then you put it outside for correction by the waste handlers, either the municipal waste or the private handler. Now, in such a scenario, it is possible that people who will come to collect these wastes are going to, at one point in the process of transporting and disposal, come into contact with a mask. Assuming that mask has the virus on it, it means the person who is handling it can be able to be infected from the mask. Is that true? So this mask can be able to transfer the virus to somebody else at their place of work or in the process of working. That is worst case scenario. It's not a good thing to see happening. Now, that is just one scenario. The next one is whereby you put the estate X, all these waste is put outside the gate so that the municipal council can come picking the waste. But the municipal council delay and the dogs tear up the papers so that they can look for food. It happens everywhere. So in the process, there is wind and all these masks are blown away by the wind. Who is going to correct these masks that have fallen all around? Imagine the risk of handling those, picking up those masks so that you can be able to correct them together. You could get infected from that. If this wind blew away the masks into the shopping center, there is Mama Kiosk who is trying to cook chapatis there and the masks are just passing by with the wind. You see what I'm saying? We have the street families that sleep on the streets. These are the streets where these masks are being blown through. So the risks of reinfection or being infected from the waste masks is very high. That is just a scenario. We have another scenario where these masks end up into the water, into the river. Now in the river there are so many things that are happening. We have animals there, so these masks could indirectly or directly affect the animals and the plants we have there, like the fish, the birds or the other small animals that we have in the water. The other one is we have water companies that usually abstract water from the rivers. These masks could clog the abstraction points or the intake points of such things. You even have farmers or factories that get water from the rivers. The intakes could be clogged by these masks. Just a scenario. Now, then, this waste that has been collected ends up into the dump site. In Kenya, we do not have segregation of waste at source. So most of it is usually carried together with all the other type of waste and ends up into the dumping place, especially the municipal dump sites, where we have people who are there scavenging. We have people who are trying to separate there. They're trying to look for waste that is recyclable, waste that is reusable. Imagine the risk if these masks are reused. Imagine somebody went to the dump site and collected all those masks and decided to wash them, iron them, and resell. Imagine the risk. Now, yeah, bad. So then imagine those people who are in the dump site trying to separate these wastes, different type of waste. They're just walking around and touching, and in the process they're getting into contact with these masks, and of course they could be infected from there. That is what is happening. You are walking around and you can see masks everywhere. That is what is happening. But how are you supposed to dispose them off? According to the guidelines that have been given out by NEMA, the National Environment Management Authority, this waste has been classified as hazardous waste. This is biomedical waste and needs to be handled with a lot of caution and with a lot of care, because Medical waste is like any other waste that is produced in the hospital. It is very dangerous. It is infectious waste. So how is it supposed to be disposed of? The best, the most recommended way of disposing medical waste in hospital, in healthcare centers, at the source of production is usually incineration. You can incinerate, you can shred, and other appropriate ways of disposing of medical waste. Now, these masks are classified in that category, so that is the way they should be disposed of. They should be incinerated, they should be shredded, they should be disinfected and such. The treatment is very different from how we dispose other waste like paper, leftover foods. It's very different. So then people have been urged, in fact, in factories, workplaces, in residential areas, if it's an estate, the owner of these places or the management is supposed to come up with special dumping places where, if, like for example, the scenario we're using of estate X, the owner of X, the management that manages X is supposed to have a specific place where there's a dumping point for masks and other things or other equipments, other wastes that is generated in the process of handling COVID-19 cases or even precautionary measures that are taken around COVID-19. Those places are supposed to be separate. They're supposed to be there. That is only for masks, bottles, sanitizer bottles, and all these things, all the waste that we have. They're supposed to be disposed of there. And then people who are licensed waste transport or waste disposer guys who are licensed by NEMA as hazardous waste disposal are the ones who are supposed to handle that waste. That is the way it should be. In government places or in workplaces, they're supposed to be specific bins. You see, the way you go into hospital and you find there's bins that are in different colors. There's the yellow, there's red, there's black. That way, that is how it should be, even in the workplaces, in the factories, in the manufacturing areas, in the offices. There should be a bin that is color coded and has a liner inside where you're supposed to dispose of your waste, especially the masks. And then people who are supposed to handle that is people who have been licensed to handle hazardous waste. At least now you know. So in your home then, if you cannot be able to access those points, what do you think you should do? How are you handling your waste at home, especially the masks, now that you're living in a rural area where it's not possible to access these services? What do you do with your mask? Let me know before we get there, before I tell you of how we do this. Of course, this one is going to be for people who are going to comment down below. I'm going to tell them of how they're supposed to dispose of that waste, but make sure before you dispose it, however way you're going to do it at home, in your home, make sure it is disinfected at least, so that it does not cause infection to the next person who is going to come across that waste. At least dispose it off. Disinfect the mask on both sides, and then fold it well, and then dispose it. So in rural areas, in shags, how are you disposing of your masks if you're using the one-time mask or the two or the So me personally, I recommend you use the cotton, the washable mask that you can use several times. So you have 3 or 4 that you do in a week and match it with your clothes. That's the best option for me. From an environmental view, I think that's the best. I'll see you next. Like this video if you love it, share it with a friend, or of course subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.